wait for people to come in. That's
yeah.
my experience.
They are coming. Yeah, 17.
Now, where are we? There we are. Part 1. You can see the attendees just go up and up as they come in.
Arun, can we make anyone from the participant to panelist, because one of the panelists is not in the panelist section.
Yeah. I think Kamlesh, you have the access.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I will do that. Promote to panelist Atul. Yeah, I made him.
So somebody said that people are having trouble getting in, are they? I wonder, it always has.
Yeah, Kamlesh, good morning. I think I'm able to join.
Well, should we decide a time to start by? Maybe 35 minutes past? Or do you want to give it a few more minutes? So everyone, we're waiting for everyone to join. I know some people are having some challenges getting in.
Yeah. So shall we start it? 2 more minutes and 2 more minutes?
Yeah, I think we'll start at 35, right? I've generally done that with these because it gives time for the everyone to come in and the mechanics to work.
Sure.
And you're recording now. Maybe you want to record when we start, right? Right? Because we can already edit the video, right? Can you hear the thunder in the background here? Okay, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, or evening, or wherever you may be. Welcome to this inaugural Blockchain Stories 2020 event. I'm Julian Gordon, and I'm the Asia Pacific VP for Hyperledger. I'm speaking from Hong Kong today, and I'm delighted to be invited to open this event. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Hyperledger India Chapter for organizing this great series. It's such a great idea. There are many fascinating stories to be told in the development of enterprise blockchain, with many blockchain networks progressing from POCs to pilots to production, here in Asia Pacific, globally, and across industries. To have this series where some of these pilots and deployment journeys can be shared and discussed is so interesting, so useful, and I believe will help inspire and inform the Hyperledger and broader open source community on what is happening and what is possible, and hopefully will spark ideas on how you can join in. With COVID-19 currently and dramatically upending our world, it is heartening for the Hyperledger community to have these series running through the summer, where we can all join virtually to share, learn, and discuss. We are an open source, supportive community. Everyone is welcome, which is perhaps more important than ever in these times. Across Asia Pacific and globally, Hyperledger is seeing significant trends in enterprise blockchain and open source, as it has a rapidly increasing impact on how business, government, and society work. Some of these emerging block trends we're excited about include interoperability between networks, self-sovereign, distributed digital identity that is rewriting the rules for identity management, the maturing of governance models, and initiatives such as the World Economic Forum's Presidio principles that could provide foundational values for our decentralized future, some of which you're going to hear about in this series. With COVID-19, Hyperledger is seeing an urgent acceleration in the development and use of enterprise blockchain to enable greater digitization, streamlining of operations and trust, particularly in supply chain, healthcare, and finance. And as an example, you'll be hearing about a highly successful and innovative trade finance blockchain solution from dltledgers today. The Hyperledger India chapter launched around a year ago. Its volunteers and organizers have been amazing, building community, creating great events. Many of the chapter members have incredible technical knowledge and expertise and provide support to developers across India and beyond. So I say thank you to Amol, Ajay, Arun, Kamlesh, Sean, Lakshay, Vishal, and many, many more. I would encourage everyone listening to get involved in the Hyperledger community. Contributions can come in many forms. You can contribute to a project, help to organize events like this, show up and attend events, help with translation, write documentation, any activity that helps build and supports our shared ecosystem. A great way to start is to join, especially for those in India, the Hyperledger India Chapter calls. They are on every Wednesday afternoon. You can find out how to do this by going to our Hyperledger wiki, and I always recommend going to our Hyperledger wiki for first place and place for information, and that is on wiki.hyperledger.org. Or please reach out to any of the community. Everyone is happy to help and support you get involved. So with that brief introduction, I would like to say thank you, stay safe everybody, and please enjoy this event. And now I'm going to hand this over to you, Arun.
Thanks, Julian. That was awesome. Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm sure that community in India will adapt to it, and then we'll have something to show you in getting involved in the open source community. As a first talk, we have a talk from dltledgers. We have Raji Iyengar and Atul Patel from dltledgers joining us in. And Raji has experience of over 3 decades in industries and also has leadership experience from companies like IBM as well. And currently she is head of South Asia and India division of dltledgers. And we request you to start the session. Over to you, Raji. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Julian. That was a good introduction and a good welcome, I would say. Okay, I need to share the screen, but it's not letting me share the screen. I guess you can see it now. Can you? I guess you can. Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. So as Julian and Arun also introduced, so this is Raji Iyengar. Thanks for your time to be on this. I am the Managing Director for dltledgers for India and South Asia. As Arun mentioned, I've been in the IT industry for over 30 years, both in India as well as overseas. I'm currently based out of India and happy to connect with everyone in the call after this, should you need any discussions further. So, as Julian mentioned, and as we've all seen now, I don't think we need to spend too much time, but this happened. The event happened, right? Economies declined, a lot of sad things happened. But now let's try and see how to navigate this global trade in this so-called new normal. For years, actually, trade finance digitization has been more focused on efficiency, cost savings, or even lower risks of error. But with COVID and the lockdown, we are seeing that customers, including regulatory authorities, are supporting that digitization is not only going to is a necessity to keep the commerce moving, but definitely will enhance commerce as well. This is what we've been seeing in the news today. I mean, while all of us say this, even World Economic Forum says pandemic strengthens the case for using blockchain in supply chains. Here's another one which talks about how the pandemic accelerates drive for blockchain in trade finance. They're going about saying how it can actually reduce the LC transactions from several days to a few hours. And I'll share with you about the platform and how we can do this. But here's what it is. The technology has been around for a few years, right? But this health crisis is certainly accelerating its use. So that's the support that's coming from whatever has happened now. So without much ado, let me quickly jump into what cross-border trade digitization we're talking about from dltledgers and why this is so imperative to keep the wheels of commerce moving. So stay with me on this. dltledgers is headquartered in Singapore, and it started over 3 years ago. And in this short span of existence, we have had over 3 billion worth of transactions and trade financed over this platform. This is a production grade platform. I'm not talking about POCs here. I'm not talking about something that is a trial. It is a production grade platform. And we have over 400 plus trade houses that have adopted this. So dltledgers is a corporate, private, secure network platform, if I may say that. As you can see, there are some recognitions in the lower part of the screen that is affirming the fact that there is a clear need for a post-trade execution platform. Our plan is, as I said, we are based out of Singapore, but we are also there now in India. We've just started. We are in UAE, we are in ANZ and Tokyo. Very soon, our plan is to go across all the major hubs, as you can see, Sao Paulo, New York, Geneva, etc., and cover all the major hubs for trade. So let's begin with a little bit of basics. I know in the audience, we have a lot of folks who are very well-versed with blockchain and Hyperledger, and I'm hoping that there are some traders and business folks too. But just let's quickly look at, what's the basics of what we call as cross-border trade. A simple definition out of the dictionary. If you look at what trade is, it's a flow of goods between two countries, right? Two countries, two jurisdictions involving people, businesses, which is essentially flow of goods, flow of documents, flow of contracts, and flow of money. These are the four important elements of, whenever a trade happens. And clearly, there is a need for integrating all these flows to ensure that there is, we are able to release cash and improve the supply chain efficiency. So that's clearly an advantage. Now, in its most basic form, if you look at any trade, and as you can see, this is a busy slide, but in its most basic form, trade is a complicated transaction, and I'm sure a lot of us on this call will agree to this. A buyer in one country, a seller in another, middlemen, agents, to navigate a maze of shipping, customs officials, ground transportations. We have banks on both sides, often providing funding to complete the deal, right? So in normal times, global trade anyway happens despite all this notoriously messy exchanges of legal paperwork. But now add loads of restrictions during a worldwide pandemic like this, and the wheels of international commerce have certainly the potential to slow down, right? I'm sure you'd agree to that. So here's a solution. What we're trying to say is this is a private independent network. We're bringing all the various counterparties involved in a trade to come together and transact through this platform. So what we're looking at here is that you can create your trade flow between different parties involved in your trade transaction. We call it as the trade execution engine. With templates, there are ready templates, hundreds of ready templates to execute a smart contract, networking all these parties, and using a dynamic consensus engine. Again, thanks to Hyperledger Fabric and blockchain, that this is a very, very robust platform that we have built. The digital document exchange is also a single repository. There is a secure vault, what we call as a digital filing cabinet, and for all the participating parties to look at different trade documents involved. However, the trader, the subscriber, is the one who actually gets to control and see, allow access of the documents on a need-to-know basis. So that's extremely advantageous. This can integrate with your backend ERP systems so that contracts are executed seamlessly. So you can actually pull out a contract from your existing ERP systems and go ahead with the flow. What you're looking in the left side corner is the rapid financing part. As you know, lots of frauds and errors cause unwanted delay too. There is a loss of time, loss of money for banks. So digital trade finance is a trusted channel for banks to fund trusted network of customers. We've been talking to a number of banks and traders in the last few weeks in India, and banks are also keen to get a handle on the supply chains that they are financing, right? So this is quite important element of the platform. We also look at tracing and visibility element where shipping and logistics companies with the API connect can connect with the system. So there is real-time tracking now. So again, here's a platform where we have all the parties involved in trade come together, exchange documents, and sort of reduce the entire time and come into this unified platform, I would say, and exchange information through, and all is through mutual consensus, again, thanks to blockchain. If I may just take a quick look at the tangible benefits of coming into a digitized platform. So I did share with you in the previous slide as to what all can be done, but let's take a quick look at this tangible benefits. One of the key benefits is certainly a reduction in financing cost, which is about 15 to 20%. As these are the data that we've collected after speaking to various customers. As I told you, there are at least 410 traders and 65 banks in the platform, and we've been talking to quite a lot of them. The cycle time reduction in absolute terms is again a great thing to look at. Now, if you look at long haul, a 45 days trade cycle, for example. If it's a long haul, let's say cargo getting shipped from US to Mumbai or Southeast Asia, a complete trade cycle could be anywhere between 40 to 45 days, right? Now, this can be reduced by at least 10 days by using a platform like this, all the paper documents, exchange, all approval, etc. That is certainly an advantage to all in this chain. And if it's a short haul, say between Mumbai and anywhere in Southeast Asia, be it Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Indonesia, where the shipment may reach in 10 days, but the documents take longer through banks, as again, as many of us have experienced. So for those extra days that stock is lying in the port, it attracts demurrages. But what we're trying to say here is that let's go ahead with digitization so that that cycle time is reduced. This again is a very wordy slide. I wanted to take a little bit more samples of how exactly they could be an advantage. This is saving in bank interest paid due to reduction in cycle time. It's a self-explanatory slide, you can read it. But I have taken the example of two scenarios. One is with a small and medium segment. If you say on a 1 million transaction that they do, having an interest rate of 10%, obviously it may not be 10%, but I've just taken that as an example. And you do that for 10 days and divided by, let's say 360 days, the approximate saving that we're looking at is about 3K. So the annual savings is a good 300K for a small and medium enterprise segment. And now when you look at a larger segment, obviously, I mean, a large enterprise, we are talking of at least $1 million that actually can be saved. These are very tangible. The platform, as I said, and if I didn't say it before, it's completely plug and play. And to make it readily available, the core modules are 16, which are clearly defined. As you can see, there's a smart contract engine, there is a digital file cabinet that I spoke about, there's AI fraud detection, ERP connectors for backend, etc. So these core modules are there, the 16 ones, which are clearly defined, and these signature elements which are intrinsic to this platform to ensure the platform is relevant to the customers. And this modular approach also helps in quick deployment. And now that's a very powerful client proposition that we are talking about. Great. So why did we choose Hyperledger? Is that even a question, I would say? It's very obvious. So yeah, dltledgers chose Hyperledger as its fabric to build on. Obviously, as it's modular in architecture, there is flexibility while offering performance and stability. And being a leader in permission networks was an added bonus when working with banks and large enterprises. So again, who is dltledgers platform useful for? As I said, on the right side, you can see our user base. There are, all these traders and banks and even farmers and logistics. And sometime later, probably in another webinar, I'll go into details of how we are linking the entire value chain of farmers produce to, to the mills and then to the exports and then landing at your doorstep. But that's for another day. So again, so who is it useful for? It's the banks, traders, large enterprises, logistic companies, and even insurers, I would say. And as you can see, each one has their own, benefits that they get. As I said, banks can dramatically increase visibility into their trade flows, the turnaround time, risk, fraud, all that is reduced. Auditors and regulators, again, gain access to real-time information because these are all immutable record of transaction. So it's, if there are two things that you need to take away from this, one is that dltledgers is a private, secure network platform built on blockchain, on Hyperledger Fabric, and the records are immutable. So I could even go to the extent to say that if the trade is done on this platform, it's absolutely a genuine one, right? So yeah, there are several portfolios, several tangible POCs also done. Like I said, this is a production grade platform. However, we have been doing a number of POCs. So and there are live cases as well. We will share with you one such success story today. But do get in touch with us later for if you would like, a POC done. And for those of you who are from the software side, and if you think there is any benefit that you can bring in your clients also, I mean, we could have a joint discussion on that. Here is a case study that is very famous, and you'll find a lot of PR around this on AgroCorp, on how they use this platform. What were their issues was that there was high operational cost, there was delay in their supply chain, and obviously there was no visibility also in the trade. And they were looking for a super connector to build all these different, if I may say, digital islands. And that's exactly what we do too. So it's an inter-enterprise solution. And through DLT ledgers, through this platform, AgroCorp was able to offer its supply chain some real-time updates on commodity prices and delivery information as well. Also, trade financing approval for orders from around the world. So you could see, you know, what amount of benefits, and you'll hear from them in a minute. They're also seeing other indirect benefits, like, you know, traditionally there was a lot of cost related to operations, right? So typically a member of staff would have to manage the entire document flow for each trade. Now, digitization definitely has freed up, you know, resources here. So without much ado, let me just take you through this presentation. That's right. So that was the that we were talking about in terms of the customer success story. As you saw, there's DBS Bank involved. Like I said, there are 65 plus banks. There's DBS, Stanchart, Rabobank, all the, you know, pretty prominent banks. In India, we are talking to ICICI, Federal, IndusInd, and others as well. So we are hoping to sort of accelerate faster here in India, and I'm sure with all your support we will. So again, DLT ledgers and Hyperledger. So there's real-time updates, faster trade financing, as we just went through it, reduced cycle time, and of course, a very, very seamless and secure environment. Before I go, so we at DLT Ledgers have been busy talking to and onboarding some traders, banks, and large enterprises, MSMEs, logistics companies, shipping companies onto our platform. We are in active discussions in trade communities, trade associations on how blockchain-based platforms can help in this emerging new normal. As I'm sure many of you have attended various other webinars, and I think in this COVID situation, there's one good advantage is that all of us have been listening to a lot of, attending a lot of webinars. And you know, in most of these trade-related webinars, they have been talking about how we must go ahead with digitization. So there is always a first step. It is not daunting. Let's take that first step and talk to us. Let's keep the wheels of and engines of commerce moving. My number and my email ID is here, and we will field some of your questions. Thank you very much, and over to you, Arun.
We have a few questions on the chat. Atul, okay. Would you like to speak about it?
Yeah, so am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the earlier...
Atul, this is a different Atul from the...
Oh, okay.
From the DLT ledgers. Yeah, Atul.
Atul from DLT ledgers. Are you, would you like to speak, answer those questions on the chat?
Absolutely. So can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so thank you. There are some questions, so let me just run through the questions and comments that came through. So I think there's a question from Bhavna saying, you know, why would you use underlying blockchain or distributed ledger? I think this is about parties in the cross-border trade who are at arm's length. So they are really not really trusting each other, typically in a cross-border scenario that Rajiv went through. So there's quite a bit of inefficiencies and repeat of documentations that are needed to really make the trade work. And then obviously there is an inherent unscrupulous elements who creep into this kind of scenarios who could result into the fraud. And what you see in the stories such as double financing, as well as anything else that's happening, is primarily as a result of that. So it's actually a foundational scenarios that can only be solved by a tech like distributed ledger. And that's where, I think we are looking at, driving benefits that Raji talked about. There was a question from Prabjit about how the tracing is done through the IoTs. I think in the case that we focused on primarily on this use case on cross-border trade, we are looking at leveraging the existing tracking and tracing that would have been done by different parties, such as logistic party, which is in the chain, would have their own way of tracking where the ship is. But I think we are trying to connect the dots, if you will, in a very kind of a private fashion to provide them with a trade clock so they can see where exactly that particular trade is. In some of the scenarios that we are working with some of the large customers, we could, on provenance and food safety, I think there is a definite case to connect with IoT, and we already done that integration as well. There is a question in terms of Laurent, in terms of the number of nodes in the network. So that's a great question. So we have been in production for last 18 months or so. I think as of there was a report out publicly, which I'll just post it after I finish talking, which talks about the what we had as of March. I think it mentioned about over 520 nodes which are in production as of now, and we are the largest in terms of the production deployment of the nodes across the world. Brian talks about us in the global discussions as well. So yes, it is something that we take really good pride of. Our tech team has been world class to really deliver that 500 odd nodes, and it could actually, by end of the year, it probably will hit about 1,000 given the demands that we see in this time to go digital. Yeah, and there was probably one more question that's coming through from Shrey Jans in terms of number of nodes increases, latency also increases, and how is that managed? So it's part of the scalability and TPS reports that we have. We have not yet even touched 20% of what the framework like Hyperledger could deliver. So I don't think there is any issues in terms of latency or potential issues in terms of scalability. Simply, we need more and more adoption, more and more of cross-border trade to happen. At this rate, I'm seeing, it's about getting adoption is a challenge, not the scalability of latency. There is another question about how participants can own node in the supply chain. I think it's again, they actually get, the nodal network gets initiated in matter of, a few hours. And, that's kind of set up and with all the application on top of that nodal network is initiated to them. And they could start configuring and adding their business partner into the network. So it's fairly quick process to initiate the node. Obviously, there are details if they are looking at, a different infrastructure provider underneath what we have. I mean, we could do that as well, but most commonly used infrastructure provider are already supported by us to initiate the node. I think questions keeps coming. Maybe this is the final question because I don't want to take a lot of time of the other speakers. It's about, there's a question from Giridhar about a question about Hyperledger Fabric. Is it decentralized or centralized system and how secure it is? So first of all, Giridhar, welcome to the right forum. And it is indeed a distributed ledger, and it's probably the most widely used distributed ledger open source platform in the world. So certainly it is distributed, it is not centralized. And if you are looking for a centralized solution, maybe you are in the wrong forum. There's a question from Vinod from data analytics in blockchain storing data, right? So it's a great point about how I can layer visibility of the trade and using some of the great work that has been happening with the data analytics side with likes of Tableaus and some nice domos and some nice analytics tools. I think it refers again back to fundamentally getting the mechanics of adoption and trade going with the different counterparties. I think we can definitely plug into any of those data analytics best-in-class tools which are there out, but I guess the business case here is not about data analytics. Business case here is to solve the trust that misses in different parties, and certainly data analytics is icing on the cake on these scenarios. Should I keep going, Arun, or I should?
Thanks, Atul. I guess we have many more questions on DLT as well on the Q&A portal, and I would like you to answer them as well, if you don't mind. And we will continue with our next session. Kamlesh?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Arun, and thank you, Atul and Raji, for the next nice presentation. So next topic we have AgriTrust, the trading business platform. And the speaker is Swami Arava. He's a specialist in the business process re-engineering and digital transformation with 20 years experience in enterprise consulting. And so AGX is a business platform representing unified B2B national marketplace for agriculture commodities and processed products that creates value by facilitating the exchange between producers and consumers. So, and along with Swami, Fani will represent. So over to you, Swami.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning.
So good morning, good afternoon, and thanks to Mr. Julian, Atul, Kamlesh, Arun. Thanks for extending the opportunity to us. My name is Swami. I'm representing SAD working with sorry, there is some mistake. Are you able to see my screen?
We're able to see your screen, but I think there's a problem with your audio. So,
What do you? Sorry. Hello.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sorry for the. I'm as I told, my name is me. I'm the managing director of SAP Tech, where we have been working with SAP and Linux operating systems. And the objective of the company is to deploy and support SAP ERP, Linux OS, and open source technology in IT solutions for software development and software services. And we have been there since 2005. I'm glad to inform that I've been joined by my Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Fani Kumar. So we have been there. We have been working with SAP for quite some time. And as all you know, that the applications have been taken a long stand for a couple of decades. And now the whole momentum is going towards platforms. Probably for the last 5-6 years, there's a lot being heard about platforms. Majorly, these platforms are confined with, again, centralized technologies. Maybe a collaboration platform, maybe ERP platform, maybe some kind of platforms which are specific to the functionality. Now, what we envisage, or when we start looking into that, we envisage a cross-platform integration with reference to a functionality is going to be the order of the day in future. Like what we talk about SAP, when we say that ERP system, which takes care of a majorly internal way of working in the business organization. But whereas when we see how do we connect to that external world, or how do we talk to the banks, or how do we talk to the customers or vendors, we have different applications. Now going forward, there should be a platform which can speak to the various applications deployed. Various applications can be deployed on the platform. That is where we start working in somewhere where we try to associate with Hyperledger. I'm happy to understand that it is from a Linux foundation, which is one of our core strengths. And in fact, my technology team headed by Fani, and in fact his team majorly comes from the open source background. So that we start working with a strong Linux distributions like Red Hat and SUSE. And we have been working very closely with SUSE since SAP deployments, 95% of the SAP deployments of HANA is done on the SUSE. So we have been starting since 2010, but predominantly start working with cloud applications and deployments from 2015. And we are happy to inform in 2018, we had our own integrated cloud management platform developed and managed by SAP Infotech, provides management of public, private, and hybrid cloud environments for running SAP ERP. So this is how we started our journey in the cloud. And subsequently, with our exposure to the working with SAP ERP applications at a very finer level, we opted to...
Swami, sorry to pause you. Swami, sorry to pause you, but your screen is not moving. I'm not able to see anything. Only I'm able to see the first part of the screen. Hello?
Hello, are you not able to hear?
We are able to see only the first slide actually. We're not able to see the other slides.
That's right. I'll run through that. Just give me a second. So that is where we start working with. Then our expertise, we try to convert all our experience and expertise in terms of leveraging an enterprise-based environment. That is where we choose an agriculture environment. Now, agri-produce exchange is an agri-value chain that enables part sourcing to ensure an effective transfer of agricultural commodities from farmers to business and processed products from business to business. When we see that this platform is majorly to address the requirement of the Indian farmers, which is the core function of the AGX business platform is to facilitate partners, farmers, traders, retail chains, processing units, corporates to join and aid them by matching them together, providing a technology to facilitate the transactions and establishing the rule that govern the network in order to build and maintain quality. The idea is to see that the agri-value chain should be able to provide a technology platform representing various agricultural supply sources in the country that refers to the value-based system. Now, agri-value chain, when we envisaged now when we see the major reference to India is to see that how the farm produce from the farm gate is translated or transformed to the product that can be consumed by the consumers. That is there are many layers are there. That is where we see that the farm gates is one of the starting point. And then if you see other value chain components, other value chain players is something like value chain. Then when you talk about value chain, retailers and wholesalers, the commodity exchange, when you stay on the value chain side, it is the way is the producing units and processing units. So our agri-value chain is meant to address all the concerns from the farm gate to the consumption point. And this is where exactly we try to use a comprehensive, holistic business model, business platform, which has various components. And in fact, if you see, it's a multi-cloud architecture, which is having a different types of clouds. One of the cloud which we are using, because we have been working with SAP for quite some time, we prefer to work with SAP Cloud Platform. Majorly, it is a Cloud Foundry, and then a CAS Cloud Platform, which is our own private cloud platform. And then we also have integration with public cloud platforms. So it's a multi-cloud architecture to support enterprise class data management and security. And when the technology components, the blockchain, one of the key technology components that we have been using it. And when you talk about the blockchain, again, we prefer with the Hyperledger. The simple reason, we have been open source. In fact, since 2000, we have been working with open source technologies. That made us, that favored us to look at Hyperledger. And there is no regret after 1 year of taking this call. So, and then the other components like with the data, and then some of IoT also we are working. That probably we will move to AI and ML also in the going forward. And the major way of looking into the whole platform is that how this platform will facilitate the users like farmers, like traders, like processing units or big enterprises or trading houses or logistic people, clearing and handling agents. That means when you talk about various functionalities of business requirement, applications, here we are using for finance, and most of the operations are going to be run on the blockchain, and the supporting functionalities like big data and then analytics, all these things will be running on it. And the functional blocks SAP Cloud Foundry, and most of the applications run from this. Next component, when we talk about supply chain, we are using the supply chain of Hyperledger blockchain. And then payment automation. When we talk about the payment automation, we are using the stablecoin and as well as the bank integration through SAP financial system. The financial accounting purely runs on SAP because, since we are using a collateralized 100% fiat collateralized digital token, we need to have the compliance into the order. So that is where what we did is that we maintain whatever the blockchain record is maintained, and then parallelly it will also be hitting the financial system, which is auditable factor. And then we are also moving with the precision agriculture, where we see that what we're trying to see, trying to achieve out of this, how do you connect for use the demand side, the demand with could be also, and then how we connect the community exchange from the farming, so that it may lead to the contract farming, where the futures and the options also can be a part of the system going forward. So in the supply chain block, so what we are talking about is that we are talking about Hyperledger, a standard system, and that is where exactly we are talking about using the smart contracts, and then we use the smart contracts for maintaining the origin certificate of origin, and then you have the test data at various levels. At this point of time, we are ready with the system. We are ready with the system from farmer to business. That means farmer in the farm gate sells his product. When he sells his product, all the data with regard to the quality, with regard to the quantity is maintained in the blockchain, and using an auction, the system, the buyer will purchase the material, and before buyer purchase the material, he has to be having a credit in my system so that he can part of the auction. So subsequently, once we make it live, which is should make it live. Currently, now we are working with SAP for closely getting it certified. In fact, it is a co-innovation from SAP global team, and then SAP vets this entire solution and certifies for a global presence. So a part of the whole solution has been considered for certification, and subsequently we try to extend this application to further levels, which I will try to describe it. So when we talk about the digital token, we are using 100% fiat collateral digital token, which is a 1:1 currency ratio token backed by fiat currency. That means whatever the money I hold in my bank, to that extent only the tokens has to be issued. So when we start working on this, there was a lot of concerns in terms of compliance with the Indian government, but subsequently, and very recently, it has been rather liberalized. But however, I see that this should be part of the system. That is where we never look back when we start working some year ago. Now, whatever happens, whenever the buyer or anybody who wants the tokens in the system, he will pay us the money and the token will be issued to him for doing the transaction on my platform. And then once he does redeem the rupee, then what will happen? This coin will be, the stable coin will be discarded. So that means it's again, we are trying to use the same standard functionality. And where, what is that we do is that I firmly believe that, the business is more important than how do we adopt the technology to the business. So this is my phase one, where we call it a spot market. In this, my solution is ready and getting it certified. Probably maybe in a next couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, we should get certification from SAP as well. So in where we talk about network market yard automation. That means we are talking about all India network market yards. That means farm gates. Then B2B, when we talk about B2B, that means here we will talk about F2B. That means how farmer can sell to a business partner, and the smart contracts and the e-auction, the digital wallet and the payment automation, warehouse management. And when we talk about warehouse management, hub and spoke system also, we are trying to incorporate. Now, the second phase, which we already start working and some kind of a POC level is done. But in the second phase, what we try to introduce the majorly precision agriculture, which talks about farm management, crop production management, and crop input management. The other things like crop insurance, microfinance, and farm equipment, mortgage crop. Once we complete the first stage of phase 2, probably we will move on to the second stage of phase 2. And the phase 3, what we see is that then how do we look at the last point, last mile. Last mile could be a retail, or last mile could be a cross-border trade. And then community exchange integration and demand forecasting, which is one of the functionality which we are seeing that it is the order of the day. That means how much is the demand is produced. In fact, we have been talking to some of the corporates, and then probably I don't want to name at this point of time. So idea is that these corporates know exactly what is their demand in terms of agriculture raw materials. So right now, what will happen is that they need to go through some kind of a intermediaries, or they need to go through some kind of a unorganized system to procure these materials. That is where exactly we are trying to extend our platform to ensure that their extended purchase can be managed for their demand. For example, let's say the company needs a material to convert it into a finished product. This raw material can be planned using our system, so that this communication can be passed on to the farmer, so that the farmer can sow the material, which can be sold after 4 months or 5 months with a assured pricing on that. That is one of the factors that what we are seeing is. So these things, maybe it will be coming in the third phase, which we see that all these things should be placed from now in next 2 years. That is what the internal deadline we try to set. And then of course we talk about price prediction, which we have not worked out much on these things unless I have a lot of data. Probably we will try to use some AI in terms of predicting price at the farm gate level. And this is just a screenshot of my application. We have here currently by our platform managers, and then there is a partner group and there is a farmer group. And in this, these are all applications which we'll be using. This is a partner group. When we talk about partners, it could be a buyer or it could be a service provider. Now, what we are showing is only partner group is a buyer, because we are talking about FTB. So auction app is there, money to wallet and redemption. That means what we are talking about is that the payment, either money to the wallet or redemption, is very well automated. That means the moment I do on my application, it will hit the banking system. Again, and the banking system is integrated with my SAP financial system internally. And the moment I got credit into my SAP Finance, the tokens will be issued. It's a matter of, let's say, few minutes at this point of time. That is what we are seeing. And we will try to improve that things much more faster, because the inefficiency, or if at all anything, is there from the banking system side. And the next, the farmer group, where exactly he talks about what is the things that he is submitting. Let's say when I talk about DAS, it is nothing but a doc appointment schedule. Then the crop registry. That means this is here where exactly we are hitting the blockchain. Again, redemption is a redemption of his money. So this is a simple flow where, you know, doc appointment request will be done by the farmer. Then we have a farm gate receipt planning. Based on the farm gate receipt planning, we got a document appointment schedule. We will confirm the farmer saying that, you know, at this point of time, we will come to your farm gate for collecting your goods. That's what we will say. Then when the farm gate infra planning, that means the moment a dash is scheduled, the farm gate infra planning, what to be sent, how do we collect it, and how do we transport to the nearest warehouse or whatever the things. So then the transport arrangement. So these are the things that we are already in place. And we are also looking at the B2B. That means subsequently what will happen, a business also can sell material onto my system. So we took a small example of cotton business, cotton trade, how the cotton goes, how the cotton value chain goes. That's where we try to work it out. And then that's where we thought we should have a B2B also in the system. And this is my flow, simple flow. So here the farmer, and this is an AGX admin. There's here my consumer, who could be enterprise client, it could be an SME, or it could be a corporate. And this is running on my SAP HANA Finance, and this is the blockchain. So probably simple, whenever the material comes, there is a issue, there is a receipt process is there. That means we got a gate entry ID, we got a lot, and then we got a quality assign, and then payment. So this, all these things will be done on the application. And then what will happen is that this particular information will be submitted to the blockchain as in a crop registry. That means we are updating what the farmer has got and what is the quality and what is the quantity in the crop registry. Now subsequent, then what will happen? Container ID generation. That means what will happen when I go to the farm gate, many farmers comes with the same product with the different lots. So the lot wise I'm capturing in the crop registry. At the same time, what will happen? The farm gate wise, probably if the quality is on the same lines, we will try to module it. That means we will try to bundle it, and we call as a container. That means what will happen? Whatever the lots are generated, put together, and we make a container. And again, container also we will hit to the crop registry. That means auction is open. That means we will set the auction time, depends upon the usage feedback, user feedback, or let's say market yards feedback, and we'll set the auction time. This auction, once the action app, which is used by the consumer, then what will happen is that this auction is there, and the bid close will be done by the admin. That means since we set the time, after that time the bid will be closed. Once bid closed is done, there is an asset transfer. That means what is the asset? Asset from the farmer is the crop, what he brought. Asset from the buyer is the money. That means there will be asset transfer. It could be crop registry, and then we have a token registry. And then once the asset transfer is done, what it does is that it also creates an invoice and delivery note in S/4HANA, and which leads to an account. What exactly the transaction in system is a compliant or audit trail process. And subsequently, the consumer can deposit money. That means the buyer can deposit money through the system, which also hits the token registry. Similarly, the buyer also can redeem the money whenever he wants to take out the money. That means a simple case of some partner comes to my network. It's a closed network whereby he can deposit money and take the tokens and trade it. And subsequently, whenever he wants to lead this closed loop system, he can submit the tokens and he can redeem the money. Customer says to redeem whatever he says. A simple flow that we have. And I have one presentation, one video. Do I need to?
So Swami, since we are little over the time, okay, we'll probably go to next session. And there are some questions asked on Q&A as well as on chat. So I would request you to answer them as well.
Okay. Just stop sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Swami. That was really insightful. And then we have people asking many questions on how it is interoperable with other systems and how farmers are getting benefit out of it. And this was a really good use case to learn as well. And thanks for sharing it. And next up, we have our next session, which is COVID-19 X-ray analysis using AI and Hyperledger blockchain. For that, we have two speakers with us today. Naresh Jain, who is co-founder of Snapper Future Tech, having more than 25 years of work experience. And he's also co-founder at Snapper Future Tech and a blockchain enthusiast. Along with him, we have Atul Kumtekar, who is a alumni of IIT Bombay from 1987. And yeah, he's also appointed as senior consultant on behalf of NISG, look into the government use cases. Welcome, speakers. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. This is Naresh. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. All right. So actually, the presentation is a little longer. We'll have to cover that in 20 minutes. So I'll try to make it. This presentation is more on a platform which we have built, and we are using that for COVID-19 testing. So I have Atul, my colleague, actually with whom we are working, as introduced now. So he will talk about the problem statement and what all is being done by IIT Alumni Council. And I'll talk about what we are doing through blockchain. So this presentation is about the medical image or health records analysis using AI and blockchain. So quickly, Snapper is a blockchain technology company since 2016, and we have worked on various products and solutions since then across different industries. And our focus is mainly on Hyperledger Fabric and some of the work we have done in the past on Ethereum too. So for this particular use case, for this particular project, we are using our platform, which is branded as a SnapCert, Trust Protocol for Certificates. So this was, we started developing this about 2 years back, and initial thoughts were that we'll use this only for education, academic certificates. But later on, we realized that the same solution applies across multiple industry. And that is how we started using this for healthcare too. So SnapCert is a blockchain-based certificate authentication and verification platform where as part of the overall solution, we do secure digitization. If suppose some of the certificates are not scanned or they are not in the digital form. So using the scanning OCR and AI solution, we do the digitization. And we also generate certificates through our platform. And the authentication process, sharing of the certificates, and the verification of certificates, all of that can be done. So what it really gives us that we are able to secure certificates permanently, and they can be verified at any point of time, real time. We are also recording the verification for audit purpose. And certificate generation process is fully automated. So this is SnapCert I just talked about, and this is a platform we are using for healthcare, which I'll talk about in the later slides. Now I'll ask Atul, my colleague, to talk about this project, what all IIT Alumni Council is doing. Atul?
Yeah, thank you, Naresh.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So this whole activity started with when COVID basically started spreading, and we started thinking about, as an IIT alumni group, how we can help the government of India and eventually probably the globe. We started multiple initiatives, one of which started with various hackathons to mature the AI technology for detecting and diagnosing COVID positiveness. And this was an expensive affair, and as well as the scale was very huge. So X-ray images came to our mind, probably because X-ray was already used for tuberculosis analysis all over the globe. And we already had some teams who were doing that. So we said, let's go X-ray way, because it's very easy to take an X-ray machine to the patient instead of patient coming to the hospital. So you will see, we even came up with a bus that roams around in city of Bombay, which goes to places and collects these images. Now this results in huge number of images. So manually radiologists studying them and putting a label or stamp whether this is COVID positive or not, or take him to the next round of testing, is manually a difficult task. So the AI came in. And because this is an healthcare related data, the security, privacy, and all those aspects were very sensitive. In fact, we already have seen some leakages, and it is very tightly secured data. And that's where the blockchain angle came in. So initially the idea started with hackathon, and then it evolved into a healthcare vertical pretty much. That's the journey we will see as we go along. So you can see a few next slides. Yeah, so these are some of the initiatives we are undertaking. So there are various diagnostic techniques, and some of these actually involve indigenizing some of the equipments which is imported and expensive. For example, the RT-PCR gene testing is quite expensive. The units are very less. So all kinds of issues. So we are helping in all directions. That's the short note. There is a lab set up at Podar Hospital in Mumbai. Yeah, you can go ahead. And that actually we built in very short time, less than a month or so. That was a heavy day and night activity. A lot of IITians volunteered to do that. And this is one of the results you see, which is a bus which has the X-ray machines primarily inside. It goes to the any location, test people, gets their X-rays and sends it across the cloud. Right now radiologists are doing it, but pretty soon it will be done through AI filtering, and then it's only selected ones will be looked at by radiologists on a priority. Next, please. So eventually now it is becoming an integrated healthcare network with blockchain addition for the privacy, security, authentication, provenance, and even we are looking at lineage and provenance parts in this. So this is going to evolve as a bigger platform than we envisaged initially, and that's the journey that is fascinating, and it has evolved in a very short time, less than 2 months or so. Yeah, please, next. The objectives were cost reduction, faster turnaround, which are very typical to any software system. But the major one was basically about the sensitive data, which is healthcare data, and the security, privacy, non-leakageability of that data. So that was the most important one. And for this, various IITs have donated HPC infra, and some private companies also have volunteered to donate some AWS and Amazon cloud space. So that is very welcome news. So everybody is contributing in a way. Next. Yeah.
All right, you want to take from here?
Yeah. Thanks, Naresh.
All right. Thank you, Atul. So as Atul mentioned, so initially, even though we started with only one particular use case, which was X-ray image analysis using AI. But we realized that the same thing can be used for any kind of health record or any kind of image. So even vaccination and all that. So what you see in this architecture, the platform, the top we have the hospital, the doctor and the labs, who are the one who are generating health data or health records or the images. The patient goes to them and with the symptoms, and they start diagnostics, and the record is created, and that record is basically here what we are patient privacy is very important. So each patient, the hospital, even any kind of doctor, regulator, insurer, everybody is given a DID, decentralized identifier. And what the hospital needs really not the patient's personal data. They are more concerned about the patient's physical data or the health data. So through this platform, the patient, whenever he goes to the hospital, he shares only the decentralized identifier. He doesn't need to share the name also. Because when the patient signs up on this application, he is assigned one identifier, and that identifier is linked to his personal information, which is known to only the patient. And that DID is being used by the hospital to view all the records or health records or the information of that patient. But that data also is only viewed or can be seen by the doctor, the people, after getting a consent from the patient. So patient gives a consent, then only the data is visible to the doctor, the relevant people, nurses. And so whenever a diagnostic is done, so the image, we are using AI radiologists. So we have to pass on that those images to AI radiologists in a very secure manner. So using this platform, we are transferring or transporting the images to AI radiologists digitally in a very secure manner after verification. So whatever data is recorded on this platform, all of that data is verified whenever it is viewed by any of the doctor, nurse, or the stakeholder. So this is the process which is specific to medical image analysis. So hospitals are the one who are generating the images. Those images first goes to the secured storage, and whenever it is to be transported to AI radiologist, so it is transported to a temporary file storage, and the AI engine runs on the same platform, on the same server, which scans and analyze that image and spit out the results, which are uploaded on the blockchain platform. So there's a temporary file storage which gets from where the file gets deleted automatically as soon as the results are generated after scanning that image by the AI engine. And there's an authentication of the image and the results, and every time whenever access is done. So hospital or the doctor who has taken the X-ray or the image gets the results from blockchain and take further action on that. Even patients, the doctor, suppose the same patient goes to a different doctor. So in that case, after giving his consent, those health records or images can be viewed by those doctors. Even insurance company can take out the results and use that for claims. So this is the image analysis process. Here, I would like to talk about mainly from privacy point of view. Whenever there is a record verification, we want to ensure that we are using SSI, self-sovereign identity, where each stakeholder is given one identifier from the blockchain. And whenever a record is created, it requires credentials are verified and to be signed before creating a record. Or whenever we are trying to access the records, it requires a signature from that stakeholder. So hospital creates the records, patient shares the health record with the doctor or the verifier. And here we are using zero knowledge proof that only certain information which is needed by the doctor or the verifier is only available to that stakeholder. So we're using Hyperledger Fabric, a permission blockchain, and over and above the DID is created on the same platform. The purpose is the patient should have a complete ownership and the control of the records. Those records, the patient records, the health records, which is the history of the patient. Patient is the owner of that. And we are meeting the global compliances while designing and developing the solution. So W3C, which is the worldwide consortium, we are using DID, decentralized identifier and verifiable credentials. We are also complying to HIPAA for data privacy, data security, audit control of the access control. And by using SSI and the DID, we're ensuring that we are also compliant for GDPR. And this is the blockchain architecture. I will not go in detail of this, but quickly. So we are using multi-hosting and architecture, which is agnostic to any infrastructure. We can use any cloud server. The whole network, here there are two parts. One is the data generator. The data generator is nothing, is the one who are the hospital, the labs who are creating the data. And network governance, which is being done by either us or regulators are part of that. So there are up to 4 nodes we have identified, which will be used by us or the regulators from governance point of view. And each hospital or whoever is interested, who is generating the data generator, because not a small hospital may not be interested in that. Whoever is interested, he'll be given one node in the organization, will be created for that, and they are going to maintain the data completely. So this is the architecture at high level, and this is last slide. What is it we are getting? And in fact, most of the point I already mentioned, or Atul has already mentioned, that we are ensuring data privacy and integrity using a decentralized identifier or the way we share the information, because patient has the rights, and create a connected ecosystem. And there's no data redundancy, and data is accessed only with the permissions and after verification of the credentials. And access is again based on the role-based. Data is secured where we do cross-verification of health records using hash. And as you know that DLT network is immutable ledger, and all the transactions are stored in a cryptographic manner, which brings security, and we are able to do the verification and provenance of the transactions or records. So we're recording each verification which can be used for audit purpose by the regulators, and it's a connected ecosystem where data is available real time, and it is transported in a secure way from one stakeholder to another stakeholder. So this is the last slide. Whatever questions I have, me or Atul can take those questions. Okay, so is your platform allows to have an automated consortium partners added part of the chain? Yes. So here, as it just is starting, we are targeting that the hospitals or the lab, the doctors, anyone can be part of that network. They have to simply register and start using it. So there's some kind of integration would be required so that the data flows from the hospital's database directly to the blockchain. So integration piece is required, but registration doing the registration. So we are opening the APIs for that as well for seamless and easy integration.
Naresh, there is a question from someone in Philippines asking how this can be implemented in Philippines.
So we can definitely talk about that. We can take it up over there. So we'll have to work together. And so my details are here. You can connect me and we can talk about in more detail.
Okay. So now there is a question from Amol. A person may need to have multiple tests. So he will need to then track multiple IDs. So can you please?
Okay. So first of all, so let's understand one thing, that the way we are working on this. I started talking about SnapSearch, which is the original platform, which is the base, where because that was for education purpose. For example, one person throughout his life goes for different schooling in college and different kinds of certifications. Certificates are issued which are permanent in nature. So similarly, a patient throughout his life, he makes multiple visits to the doctor and different kind of testing. Those records are permanent in nature. So we are simply, what we're doing here, we're recording and maintaining a blockchain against his identifier, the DID, the decentralized identifier. For the patient, against the decentralized identifier, we're recording all the health records. And those health records, once the permission is given by the patient to doctor can view what kind of history, medical history that person has.
Okay, one question about how this system will help in supply chain integration for hospitals, like managing medical supplies.
So this is not for supply chain. For supply chain, we have different solution, and we are working on that right now. So this is for health records, not for health records and your medical images, your even vaccinations, the lab reports and all that. But this platform is not for supply chain. For supply chain, there's a different solution which you are working on right now.
There is one more question which says, how can patients still enter their data by themselves if the hospital is not part of this initiative?
No. So data cannot be created or generated by the patient. Patient simply signs up and create a DID. But rest is done by the doctor, because doctor is the one who does the diagnosis and prescribe. So okay. They are the one who keeps record.
Okay, and I think Atul, this question for you. Sometimes there may be false positives, such records need to be removed. How can such scenarios, anomalies can be fixed?
Yeah, I was just answering that question. So I think false positives is not a bad thing. False negative is worst. And we are trying to get to the point where there are no false negative, even a single one, because any COVID positive patient undetected is going to harm 15 other people. So false positive is not a really serious problem. It will be some extra overload on the testing, which is fine.
Kamlesh, okay. Any other question? Or?
Yeah, who is the buyer of this solution, hospitals or government? So I think it's government and hospitals both. So it was kind of this one. Another question about the what about adoption challenge? Could be the patient not take an image scan of their diagnosis sheet and edit here to ensure patient history is maintained.
Yeah, so if you look at the implementations of this as we expand, it will be mostly labs and hospitals, and the data will come to the most of the secured centralized locations, and then the appropriate blockchain part of the data will go in blockchain. So I mean, hopefully this will solve a lot of other questions like can patient enter data and etc.
What is the cost of this solution? Is it based implementation cost or AMC?
This will be most likely transaction based. So because our target is not to charge too much to a patient, our goal is about 100 rupees, 125 rupees for the entire testing that will be done per patient. Today in private, if you go, they are charging like 4,500 approximately, not less than that. So with government initiative, this will be the target about 100, 125 rupees. And so the parties involved on commercial basis will get in proportion to that and definitely transaction basis.
Another question, in what format does patient access their data? Is it an email or physical, or is it any other form?
No, it's not.
Question is the answer by Atul to the
it's the app, right? Yeah, it's the app, right? Where he will view his records.
Yeah, so ideally he will get some form of a certificate. Certificate is basically a data. So we will devise such certificates that will enable radiologists to see something, patient to see something. So there will be different certificate formats. That's how I see it going forward.
Thanks, Atul. Thanks, Naresh. It was a great presentation. We have a few more questions, and we will continue answering them on chat and Q&A.
Yeah, so there is some question about data security, and as I stressed already, that is the prime goal. And even the image data that is stored is under strict security sandboxes, either IIT Delhi, HPC infrastructure, or could possibly be in AWS or Amazon secured buckets.
Okay, thank you, Atul. Thank you, Naresh. So now we can take up the next topic. Meanwhile, you can answer the question in Q&A and chat section. So next topic is iState. So most of the people know in the Fabric there are two kind of databases for the state database, like leveldb and CouchDB. So, but generally leveldb is slow when compared to when we're doing the rich queries. So how we can enable the rich queries using the Go leveldb? So this solution from the Prashant, and they is an open source contribution to the Hyperledger Fabric, and he enabled some changes to the Go leveldb to enable the 20 times quicker rich queries. Over to you, Prashant.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thanks, Kamlesh. One second, let me share my screen. Yeah. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to give my appreciation to Hyperledger India Chapter for organizing this awesome e-meetup. It was really nice of the organizers to put efforts on creating posters and whatnot to promote their speakers. So yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, I'm going to talk about iState. You might have noticed that I've changed the topic from 7x quicker rich queries to 20x. I will talk about it in the later part of the session. Myself, I'm Prashant. I'm a blockchain enthusiast. I like Golang. Golang is my code language. I've been working in Hyperledger Fabric for about 2 years now. Motorec is a blockchain-based startup that has been active for about a year now. I'm a founder leading product development, blockchain, and R&D. iState is our first open source project. While starting, our primary focus was on Medisort, which is a blockchain-based interoperable platform for healthcare sector. So we used Hyperledger Fabric as our blockchain framework, of course, because it had all the qualities that we needed for the solution. We have solved several problems along the way, be it business or technical. My colleague, Dr. Rajesh Sharma, who is an ISB alumni, will talk more on that front in one of the further upcoming sessions on how we are productizing blockchain in Motoric. So let's talk about iState. iState is an importable open source package for Hyperledger Fabric Golang chain code. So with iState, we are not able to perform rich queries over leveldb, where previously we could do rich queries only if we used CouchDB. We all know that leveldb is superior with its write performance, and so is about 30% faster than CouchDB. And for Medisort, we wanted to exploit the full potential of what Hyperledger Fabric has to offer us. So we went for leveldb, of course. But we also needed to be able to perform rich queries for healthcare analytics. And so we decided to develop iState. So when we thought first of doing queries over leveldb, the first thing that came to our minds, of course, is the composite keys. But there were limitations in that. One being, composite keys does not support true rich queries. That is, relational operations such as greater than, less than, greater than equal to, or less than equal to is not possible. Only match only queries were possible. And even in that match only queries, there were problems. For example, if you see this structure here, I have three fields, field 1, field 2, and field 3. And I have loaded these fields with the data value 1, value 2, and value 3. If I generate composite keys out of this structure, I would do something like this in the picture bottom. At the bottom. So field 1, field 2, field 3 being the composite index, and val 1, val 2, val 3 being the values of those respective fields. So if I want to perform a query on field 1 in this setup, I do something like this. I will use the getState by partial composite key API provided by Hyperledger Fabric. And the first parameter is the composite index, which I showed field 1, field 2, field 3. And I'm putting in the query value in the first position of the second parameter here. Because we are querying for the field 1. So this has to be in the first position. So this will work fine. This works fine. This will return as the expected query, and it all goes well. But if I want to query field 3, then I cannot do something like this, where I have left 2 empty values in the first and second position and has given the value 3 in the third position, because field 3 is what I'm actually willing to query. But if I send this input to this API, it means that I'm saying field 1 must be empty string, field 2 must be empty string, and field 3 must be having value 3. So I don't want that. I just want to query for field 3. I don't want to query field 1 and field 2 in this case. It is not possible in that. To solve that, we can do something like this, where we can generate multiple composite keys for a single structure. And here in this case, I have generated a composite key for each and every field in my structure. And here, if I want to query field 3, I would just choose the third composite key and I will query on that. It will just work fine. It will work fine. It will give me the query results that I want. But still, it is not flexible enough. It does not support relational queries. It does not support true rich queries. So that was a barrier for us. With iState, we can actually perform rich queries just like CouchDB does. We can do relational operations and we can do it to the full extent. And iState is pretty easy to use. You just have to download the package from GitHub and import it in your code and start using it right away. And interestingly, it is faster than CouchDB's indexing mechanism. So when technically when we are talking about iState, it is one of the indexing mechanisms. So it is only fair to compare CouchDB when it has its index enabled. And when we studied iState's performance at the first, we did it with a local machine, which had HDD running on it instead of SSD. HDD is the hard disk drive, right? So there, iState was performing 7 times faster than CouchDB. Recently, we actually tested iState with one of the AWS servers, which obviously has SSD in it. And there, in that case, iState was actually performing around 20 times faster than CouchDB's indexing mechanism. So I will actually show this performance in a demo that I'll do in a while. This is the old performance chart. The first column is the case, best case, worst case, and average case. Best case is when the query matches a single record out of the total number of records that are present in the database. Average case is when the query matches 500 records out of the total number of records in the database. And worst case is when the query matches all the records in the database. If you compare these two columns, CouchDB plus index and leveldb plus iState, you could almost always see that leveldb is 7 times faster than CouchDB, except for the best case in which anyways both were performing quite fast. So I have prepared a small setup to demonstrate the performance of iState, and it includes 2 AWS EC2 instances, specifically C5 large instance. One is running this leveldb plus iState, and another one is running CouchDB. They both run on a single peer blockchain network, obviously Hyperledger Fabric. And the chain code was written in Golang, and I've used Node SDK for the SDK layer. I've actually loaded about 1.1 million identical records to both these setups. I can actually show you that. So this is the CouchDB's foot-on interface that is running on one of the servers. And as you can see, I have little over about 1.1 million records, and I've loaded the same set of data in leveldb setup as well. So to communicate with blockchain, I will be sending HTTP request to the Express server that is also present in both the servers. If I want to use leveldb setup, I will use the respective Express server or respective IP address and use it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to first send query to CouchDB, particularly to return a set of records, say about 10,000 records. And I will record the latency of that. Then I will send a similar query to the iState and leveldb setup and record the latency of that as well. Finally, I will try to calculate the performance difference of both these setups. I will use Postman app to send requests and receive response to these servers. So this is the CouchDB server that I'm going to talk to now. This is the query that you're seeing. I'm going to query the field and int, and I want the number to be 10,000 because that is how that is the format how I loaded the data. If I give 10,000, it will return me about 10,000 records. So I'm sending in the query. Yeah, so I've got a lot of data in the results. The count field here represents the total number of records that has returned in this query. And as you can see, this is 10,001 records. So this query worked correctly. And there is this time field. I'm actually recording the latency of the response at the SDK layer itself, instead of using the time provided in the Postman collection, Postman app, to eliminate the possibility of my internet being a bottleneck in this measurement. So we can see that CouchDB has returned this 10,000 records in about 3.2 seconds. Let's hit it a couple of times to reliably measure the performance. 3.2. Yeah, I will note that down. 3.2 seconds. Now I'm going to send a similar query to this iState setup. So by the way, this is our query language. As you could see, this is very similar to a JSON structure, and it is very similar to the query that you do in CouchDB. So I'm going to again query the same field for this value 10,000. Okay, I got the results. Yeah, and count is 10,001, so it's working correctly. And time is about 0.148, which is about 148 milliseconds. Let's also hit it a couple of times. 200, 140. So our best case was 140, which is about 0.142 seconds. So if we divide these values, we could see that iState is performing about 22 times faster than CouchDB in this case. Let's do one thing. Let's actually request for even higher number of data. Let's query for 50,000 records. I'm going to query the CouchDB now. So by the way, I want to show you that I have activated index in CouchDB as well. I have activated index for an field in this CouchDB as well. So CouchDB is performing at its full potential, and we have received the response in about 16 seconds. Let's note it down. Now I'm going to do the same with iState, 50,000 records. Okay, I got the result in about 700 milliseconds. Let's also calculate the performance difference in this one. So yeah, again, it is a little over 20 times. So iState is performing consistently. Even if the data match is higher in number, it is performing consistently about 20 times faster than CouchDB's indexing mechanism. So back to the presentation. These are the features that iState has to offer. It actually has an inbuilt caching mechanism in it, which is partly responsible for the performance that it is pulling out. And you don't have to worry about cache consistency at all, because it is taking care of iState as well. So whenever you send a query to iState, you are assured that you get the latest record and the correct record. So even if you have a multi-pair setup, you are assured to get that. So if you're interested in using iState in your projects, you could just go to the GitHub page and look for the README document. It has all the information about how you could use iState in your projects. It has code examples. And in this particular one, I'm formulating a query string and I'm just passing the query string in the query function of the iState package. And one thing to note is that this function will return the result, which is already in the structure which you expect. You would have had a structure for your data while storing, and it will already be on the structure. You don't have to unmarshal it or anything. You just have to type assert it and use it right away for any of your logics. So yeah, it has an extensive list of all the possible query syntaxes that you could use with iState, be it a string field, a slice, an array, a map, all sorts of things is possible with iState. You could also do something like complex queries, like in this example below, where you could combine two or more queries, two or more primitive queries with a conditional operator and or, and it will work and return the results as you expect. So I'll actually show you an example of this complex query. So again, I'm going to query for this anint field, and I'm saying that I want the value to be less than 100 or equal to 10. It is obviously returning the result. So even after reading the document, if you have any trouble in using iState in your projects, you can feel free to reach out to us. You can also reach out to me. I would be very happy to help. If you are interested in contributing, if you have anything in your mind, any idea that any feature enhancement, or even if you find any issue in the current implementation, you can just open an issue in the GitHub page directly, or you could also contact us, contact me. We would very much appreciate your contributions. And people have given support for iState. The first week of release, we got about 1,000 clones of the iState. So thank you for that. And if you want to collaborate with Motorec, feel free to reach out to us. We are very open in listening to ideas and bringing innovation to the IT space. So if you want to understand how iState works internally, you could go to the GitHub page and find this link, follow the discussion on internal working mechanisms in Hyperledger lists. So there we would have discussed about some of the implementation of iState. These are my contacts. And on the bottom left corner, that is the URL of the iState package itself. Yeah, so that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. I'm ready to answer your questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Prasant. It was great. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, there are a couple of questions like, did you try for this invoke transactions or just for the richer queries only?
Yes, I have. So I had to load the data into the database first for querying, right? So I obviously had invoked it, and I did it transaction by transaction basis only instead of bulk upload. And I did not see a hiccup in the right transactions. It was working smooth.
No, I mean, like, suppose any improvement in the invoke transaction using the iState.
No, there is no improvement as of such, but it does not affect the performance.
Okay. And the next one about is available for the node.js chain code or just for the Go link only?
Currently, it is only available for Go chain code. We would need support from the contributors to make it available for multi-language support.
Okay, so even I gone through your discussion with the Gary and the different contributors in the Fabric, and it was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very well understand.
Thank you, Kamlesh. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think there is a, you can check any questions available in the.
Yes, I could not. I'm having actually trouble seeing. I
So
don't see any question.
yeah, I think. Do you have any benchmark with respect to right? Someone from the location.
Yes, we have actually tested Medisort, which is our first product. We had actually tested with one of the AWS servers, which had 12 cores. I don't remember the exact setup of that. We were able to achieve little more than 1,000 transactions per second in that test.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamlesh. Thank you, Hyperledger India, for having me.
Yeah, over to you, Arun, for the next topic.
Looks like for our next slot, iState team, are you available on the call? Or we can switch to the next presentation.
So actually they are facing some internet issue. So maybe we can go with the next one and then wait for them.
Kamlesh, would you like to introduce Gautam Krishna?
Yeah, so actually the iState team is facing some issues. So our next topic is for the data exchange marketplace from the Accubits. Accubits is a startup, a company based in Kerala, and they have some offices in UAE also, and they also using the Hyperledger Fabric. And from the Accubits, the Gautam is presenting this topic. Over to you, Gautam.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Gautam, we can hear you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good morning all. Before starting my session, I'd like to thank you all for being here. And I'd also like to thank Hyperledger India for providing such an opportunity to present story. Perhaps I'd like to put it as a story of how we build this particular thing. And it's a great honor to be part of this particular event. So myself, my name is Gautam Krishna. I work as a senior blockchain developer at Accubits Technology. So I have 4 years of experience in software development, and my job description mainly deals with developing and researching on the blockchain domain, plus anything that is related to crypto. So if you want to reach me out, my email is there, as well as my LinkedIn profile is there. So coming to the topic, decentralized data exchange. What this particular thing or what this particular product does is it is actually a marketplace. So a marketplace has in wherein users can come in and buy or sell data sets. To give you a context of this was actually we actually built this product as part of a cohort program by Dubai Future Accelerator. This was featured in cohort 5. This was actually a 9 weeks program wherein we actually built this particular solution. The problem statement was actually to build a platform wherein they can sell or buy the data sets or distribute their data set between the entities in a secure fashion. Again, coming to objective of the project, it's actually to develop a digital marketplace that enables secure data exchange while keeping the authenticity of the data, as well as to bring in an incentivizing mechanism to this particular thing. So to give an intro, I'm sure that many of us present here are experts in the blockchain domain. So blockchain as a game changer. So I started my career in 2017, wherein like we had this boom of blockchain. So it is considered that it is a great game changer in terms of how the internet probably works. So the features that came in with the blockchain was the data transparency. It saves cost, ensure trust, reduce risk, and data immutabilities. So so who needs a data exchange platform? So